Our skeletons are pretty much the same, so not respecting everyone, to me, is insane.
You're an absolute gem. Thank you for clicking on my Suspect series. I'm Brooke Makenna, but this is about Monica Renee Bowie. This is a disappearance with several witnesses, several suspects, and a fiancé in jail. But over a decade later, this case is still unsolved and Monica is still missing. By the way, I'm continuing, due to your guys' request, my Suspect series into August, so please thumbs up if you want me to continue these, and let's get back to the story. So Monica was a beautiful, hardworking woman who had just actually graduated from Shawnee University in Pennsylvania, and then after that she had moved to Atlanta, Georgia. She was passionate, she was a dreamer, and one of her friends actually described her to be a big, bright star. She was a workaholic and the type of woman that would often see the good in everyone and be friends with them even when they didn't deserve it. But on June 5th of 2007, Monica disappeared, and due to the witnesses' account, it was not by her own will. She was 34 at the time, 5'4", 135 pounds. She has black hair, brown eyes, and she also was wearing braces. She had her ears pierced. She was wearing a dark green dress shirt and blue jeans at the time of her disappearance. But on the night of July 5th, Monica was at her apartment complex. It was called the Lenox Apartments at 2124 Gables Drive in Atlanta, Georgia. At around 11 to 11:15 that night, a woman's scream could be heard coming from that parking lot. And at 11:19, 911 received a call saying that they had heard that scream and that they had also seen a 2002 Mercury Sable speeding out of that parking lot. It had been sitting there that day previously, and as soon as the scream was heard, it sped away. The caller said that it was maroon and that they even had the license plate for it. The witness had even seen the people inside of this Mercury Sable. It was two men in their late 20s or early 30s, and the driver was a heavyset male with a beard. He was wearing a plaid shirt, and 4 other witnesses actually confirmed that they had heard a scream from that parking lot the same time as well. Police were immediately sent to the scene. Arriving to the parking lot, the police saw a scene that was very obviously a struggle. There was pieces of hair all over the ground, as well as 2 broken fingernails. But that wasn't all that was found. A woman's green jacket, jewelry, a broken perfume bottle, an order of chicken wings, eyeglasses, and a manila folder were all found scattered around the parking lot. But Monica Bowie was nowhere to be seen. And due to the witness's statement, the police began looking for the 2002 Mercury Sable to see who was driving. They found the car the next day in West Atlanta, but it was heavily damaged, torched, and abandoned. 2 days later, on July 7th, they arrested the man who had borrowed that very car from an acquaintance of his and never returned it. His name was Jasper Keels, and they found him at a motel and arrested him for theft of a car as well as drug possession. Then they began to look into Monica's past to see if there was any connections that would help find her abductor. She grew up in Pittsburgh with her mother, her stepfather, and 4 siblings. She went to the Perry Traditional Academy for high school. She graduated from there and went on to get a bachelor's degree in accounting and was classed valedictorian at college. Monica was very close to her family, and even when she moved to Atlanta, she still went back to Pittsburgh often, every birthday, every chance she could get, just to see her family again. When she first went to Atlanta, she actually picked up an exotic dancing job just to make some extra money while she grew her businesses up from the ground. But at the time of her disappearance, she was doing accounting for many people around the city, and she had 2 businesses of her own. She had an event planning company called Go To Girls Promotions, Inc., and she also had a clothing boutique called La Coca Wear Clothing. She was doing very well for herself financially, which was no surprise to anybody that knew her, and her personal life was also thriving as well. She was engaged to a man named Cernata, who went by Rico Walters. Now, she was madly in love with him, but her mother had some doubts about Rico. Her mother said that Rico was a little too young, a little too immature, and a little too street life for Monica, who was not a street life type of girl. And Rico actually did have a history of drug sales arrests, and 2 weeks before Monica's disappearance, she was drug into that as well. Now, whether she was in on it or not is still uncertain. But on June 20th, 2 weeks before Monica's abduction, both her and Rico were arrested on charges of possession of a gun and 2.89 ounces of marijuana that was found in Monica's car. Rico was driving her car at the time, but it was her car under her name. She had no prior criminal history, and she insisted she knew nothing about the gun or the marijuana. But so did Rico. Eventually, charges against both of them were dropped, but although Monica was let out, Rico still had to go back to jail because he had been on parole for drug possession charges 2 years prior, and possession of a gun constituted a violation. Now, the day before Monica's abduction, July 4th, she had called her mother twice just to discuss wedding plans. They had talked about it being March 30th of the next year, and she seemed excited. But that would be the last time that her mother would talk to her. A few hours before her abduction, she had went to see the lawyer that her and Rico had to talk about her fiance's charges. The lawyer said that she talked about marriage, having a child with Rico, and also that she was normal and in good spirits. Now, I know what you're thinking. The fiance looks like a very obvious suspect here, but he was actually incarcerated still at the time of her abduction. But an associate of his, Lonnie Bennett, was actually seen coming out of the apartment complex around the same time as her abduction. When he was pulled over, he was found with a large paper bag full of a large sum of money. This man was found to have been in and out of jail for narcotics charges, as well as sexual battery and theft, but nothing could really connect him to Monica's case, and he was not the same heavy-set man that witnesses had seen, nor was he driving a 2002 Mercury Sable. Monica's ex-fiancé Mark Canty was also looked into in her abduction. He had previously been caught in a real estate scheme, but nothing could connect him to her abduction either. So Monica's fiancé Rico was then questioned in jail by police, who thought that the entire situation and him being involved was very curious. Monica's mother also talked to him, and he said, "I didn't do anything and I really don't know anything." And this is when I read a few sources saying she said, "I don't believe you." But I've also read articles that say that the family does not believe that Rico is involved at all. So I'm not really sure which one is more true, but if you do know, please let me know down below, because I feel like that's a very crucial part of the case, to know if the family would believe that he was. We already know that his mother wasn't quite sure about him in the beginning, but does she think that he's capable of having his own fiance abducted? I'm not sure. But Rico was not considered a suspect, and so they kind of moved on with their search. And Monica's mother, Linda Howard, flew from Pittsburgh to Atlanta to come help search for her daughter in the neighborhood around Lenox Square Mall. Her mother is not interested in prosecution, she just wants her daughter back. And even 3 months later, after searching, Monica was still not found. Jasper Keels, the one who had taken the car from his friend that was seen at the scene, was charged with Monica's abduction. It was September of 2007 now, and he was charged with Monica's kidnapping, theft of an abduction car, and drug possession. But still, investigators didn't know if Jasper even knew Monica personally. But they do theorize that her abduction was not a random act, but possibly an illegal drug activity. But since July 5th, there has been no sign of Monica Bowie. Not from her bank account, not from her credit cards, no ransom note or call, and no contact with her family. But investigators still expected to have other arrests in this case, but since then the case has really run cold and nobody is really talking about it anymore. Nobody was ever charged with her possible death, and her body has never been located. Foul play is so obviously involved here, but this case is still unsolved. Local TV stations reported on her disappearance, but not in the way that they were reporting on the other cases at the time. There was a woman named Jennifer Wilbanks in the same area that was a runaway bride who had literally run away because she didn't want to get married, and her story was more highlighted than Monica's, who was a missing woman who was abducted. There were barely any follow-ups done in Monica's case, but the local TV did do more than the national media. Fox and CNN completely ignored her case, so at least the local TV were doing something, were showing her case at least a little bit, but still, that's ridiculous that she had literally nothing compared to the usual media coverage. Bloggers and local news sites blame Monica's skin color for the lack of coverage, saying that you have to basically be white, blonde, and blue-eyed to get any sort of attention. And an investigative journalist at CNN confirmed this. His name's Art Harris, and he said that yes, that is a pretty big factor, and also criminal history is as well. Then he went into more detail about it, and what I'm about to read just put my stomach in knots, but I want to read it to you because it's important to know that this is how the world still is today, and it's ridiculous. He said, "This is going to sound sick, but they've got to be loud and market her life and convince the media that she deserves to be loved as much as they love her. People who can figure out how to work the system get much better results." As soon as I read that, I wanted to do this case because no one should ever have to market a life so we can decide if it's worthy enough, no matter their race, their religion, their sexuality, their profession. None of that matters. If somebody who is a good human being is robbed of their life, they should get justice. And it shouldn't matter about any of that. They should all get the same care from all of us. We should all want to help no matter who the person is. I absolutely hate that because of the skin color, this case went from possibly being solved to still being unsolved over a decade later because she didn't look the way that the media wanted her to. I'm happy and thankful that I can do this case and spread awareness about her and what happened to her, because this is just absolutely ridiculous that this is still happening to this day. This was back in 2007. That's not that far back into history. This is still happening today, and this has to stop. Again, Monica Renee Bowie was 34 years old at the time. She would be about 44 to 45 now. But at the time of her disappearance, she was 5'4", 135 pounds, was an African American female, had black hair, brown eyes, was wearing a dark green dress shirt and blue jeans, had braces, and her ears pierced. If you have any information concerning her whereabouts, or if you know the person or persons connected in her case, please call the police department at 770-742-7850. And you can also submit a tip to the Black and Missing Foundation online, and I will leave a link down below to where you can find that. It's been over a decade now, and although her family and everybody wants to bring Monica home alive, they know that that may not be the case, but they still want her home, and they deserve for her to have a proper burial and for them to get closure. So if you know anything, please come forward. I really hope we can do something to stop letting these cases slip through the cracks, because she deserved better. Her family deserved better. Her family actually has a Facebook page for her. It's Black and Missing Monica Renee Bowie. I'll have it linked down below as well. And the stories on there, it's just basically, it's such a positive place for it being a missing person's Facebook page. They talk about Monica's, as she was as a living person, who she was, stories from her past, and it's just, it brings tears to your eyes because you know how much this woman was loved, and they so deserve better than what they got. She deserved better. So please, if you know or can do anything to help this case, please do it. Please share it, whether it's this video, whether it's research of your own, whether it's a Facebook page, a flyer, anything you can do, because it doesn't matter that it was 11 years ago. Something can still happen. Cases are even more nowadays getting solved from years ago, and it's so amazing, but it's because of DNA research and just the more technologically advanced we are, the more cases will be solved, and I really hope that this is one of them, because it deserves that. I really don't want to do too many theories, because this one just seems so almost urgent to me. You know, it didn't happen this year, but it seems like we're just on the cusp of finding something that will solve it all. So I'm just going to ask you, if you know anything, to leave it down below. If you and call the proper authorities, of course, or if you think that maybe you heard something today that you have a theory about, leave it down below respectfully. Do you think it was the fiance? Do you think it was the man with the cash, and what was he doing with the cash? Where did that come from? Or do you think that it was Jasper Keel as the one who had borrowed the car? What do you think happened to this beautiful woman? There are so many suspects and yet no answers. I mean, there are witnesses, and abductions rarely even have good witnesses. And although they didn't see her actually being abducted, they saw this car, they saw the men, and the heavyset man that one of the witnesses saw has never actually been found. So I don't know, I'm thankful that I get to do this case, and it's been brought to my attention that you guys would like more colored African American cases, and I would love to do that. I would love to do just so many different kinds of ethnicities and everything, because it doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't. Human is a human. As long as you're kind, I accept all kinds. And if you do have any more colored cases that you would like, please leave them down below, and I will definitely research into them. Now, I know not all of you believe in spiritual things or psychics, but at the end of this case I was researching, and her mother had actually went to see these psychic Vincent sisters. They are obviously psychics, and when they talked to her, Monica's mother, she confirmed that they kind of did say things that they wouldn't be able to know about Monica if they weren't psychic. And they also said that they felt in their heart that Monica knew her abductors. They couldn't pinpoint who or how she knew them, but they felt that she had a certain trust or bond or just recognition of them. Just a little tidbit at the end. You can take it how you want. Some people really believe in that, some people don't. I do. Does that help us in finding Monica? I'm not sure. But please, thumbs up, share this video, get it out to as many people as possible. Don't forget, speak up. Your voice is powerful enough. And that I love you to absolute pieces. Okay, bye.
Don't sit and wait until everyone else learns not to discriminate. It can start right now with you.